So I'm not going to show a demo or too many slides. I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory of time-based advertising. So just to start off, my name's Marc. I'm from Sled. We make a product called Parsec, which is the first sort of platform for time-based advertising. So I think we're at the very beginning of one of the biggest changes in digital advertising. It's the shift from transacting on potential attention to real measured attention. The impression and the adjacent ads stand in our way, and I'm here to state a case for both of their demise. I don't imagine this is going to be too difficult of an audience, just because I know Jason has been on the vanguard of time-based advertising, and just last year, 80% of its members indicated a desire to sell media based on time. So as anybody who's taken Econ 101 knows, a market optimizes to its metrics. And does anybody actually think that a metric that drives a marketplace like this is a good thing? I personally don't, you guys probably don't either. Ads bought on the impression, they lack uniformity in size, they lack uniformity in placement, and also in time on screen. You never really know, outside of something being viewable, which is half of the ad on screen for 1 second, you have no idea how long it's going to be on screen for. This leads to an inconsistent share of voice, and especially when you're comparing it to content and other ads on the screen. So beyond delivering a crapshoot of value, when publishers get paid per impression, it misaligns you guys from sellers because you're incentivized to basically create as many impressions as the audience will bear. Each incremental impression on the page brings a publisher more revenue, but decreases the value of the rest of the ads on the page. There's a reasonable argument that CPM pricing, insofar as it incentivizes today's ad bloat, might be responsible for the rise of the ad blocker. So if you think about digital advertising as a conversation, which is what a lot of people talk about it as, impressions are the worst part. They're the interruption. They really have no business being optimized towards. A lot of advertisers that I talk to will actually say, well, how many impressions am I going to get? I want to get more and more impressions. I want more value. In fact, if you're actually having a conversation with somebody, you want to minimize the number of interruptions and maximize the quality of the conversation after the interruption, which tactically would mean reducing the number of impressions. So what's the right way to transact? I think, really the media business is about attention. Publishers capture it. They use an ad format to slice a small part of it off. They transfer it to the advertiser. The advertiser imprints their message on top of it, and out comes branding. So what we're really after here when we're transacting advertising is a proxy for attention. Recently, we've seen folks like the FT, The Economist, Chartbeat, and Web Spectator blaze a trail in time-based advertising by pricing media based on how long the ad is in view. The FT saw like 80% lift, I think, in recall when comparing audiences who saw an ad for less than or more than 5 seconds. So it's no doubt that it's a much more efficient way to buy advertising when you buy it based on time. Time is by far the most accurate and scalable measure of attention. It's really the atomic unit of attention, and it's our only finite resource. So it makes total sense to use the second to sell advertising. So it's no wonder that we're seeing a lot of innovation here. But adjacent advertising, the product that's currently in the market is based on adjacent advertising, and what that really gives you is an opportunity to be seen rather than a guarantee of attention. It doesn't really provide the opportunity for somebody to know how much attention is being paid to an ad. But don't get me wrong, selling adjacent placements based on time is definitely a step change improvement over impressions, but it doesn't solve for banner avoidance, it doesn't solve for the share of voice, and it doesn't really provide a good proxy for the percent of attention that you're getting relative to everything else. I have a somewhat unpopular theory that I talk about, which is that there's never been a medium in the history of time that's been officially monetized with adjacent advertising. It just hasn't happened. TV, print, radio, social, search, it's all sort of interruptive or in-feed advertising. And also, most of them will use one ubiquitous ad format, which sort of makes you wonder about the folks that talk about the 95 different ad formats and actually the fragmentation that those different formats are bringing to the market. But anyways, so adjacent advertising doesn't really work. Forced interruptions, while they may have worked on traditional media, this in the lower right-hand corner here, don't really work very well in digital. You guys know better than me that one of the biggest shifts in digital has been the change from push to pull, from when you go from analog to digital. Ad formats where the consumer controls duration are probably they're probably the best suited to digital. So these are formats like skippable video, inline content ads, social feed ads, card-based ads. All these formats are under control of the consumer. So ad formats that conform to the pull expectations of digital audiences while still maintaining the interruptive quality needed to actually capture attention at scale. So it's something that we call politely interruptive ads. So they're not just good for the user experience. I want to tie this back to time-based advertising. The really beautiful, amazing thing that they offer is a quality score, is a metric. The amount of time that somebody chooses to spend with an ad is probably the best metric that there ever has been for advertising. It tells the advertiser about the value, about the impact, about the relevance, about how the ad actually engaged somebody. It's just this amazing, beautiful metric, and it only happens with politely interruptive ads, which is when the user gets to choose how long to engage with a high impact advertisement. But it's not only useful for the buyer. I think it's really, really, really useful for the marketplace and for the seller as well, and here's why. The best illustration for this is CPC. So in CPC, you could actually use the click-through rate as a quality score, and this is what Google does. So Google basically takes a cost per click bid, and it multiplies it by the CTR, which is a quality score for it, and it gets a bid rank. That CTR is basically a quality score. You have 5 different ads, you see which one is clicked on the most, you know which one is highest quality based on that click-through rate. In the same sense, time spent, or how long an audience member, some of the audience chooses to spend with the ad, could be used as a quality score for advertising. So in practice, a time-based marketplace would operate very, very similarly. Basically what we would do is we take the average time on screen, which is how long people choose to spend with an ad on average. We multiply it by the cost per second bid, and then you basically get the winner of an auction. It's a totally new way to sell display advertising, and I think it's revolutionary because it takes into account the quality of the ad. So this makes it makes a marketplace and an outcome very similar to what we see in CPC advertising over the past 13 years. And it has 3 effects. The first is that the better your advertising is, or the better advertising is in general, the cheaper it is to run, or the more efficient it is to run, because the higher your time on screen is, the lower your CPS bid can be, and you can still win an auction. What that basically means is better ads are more efficient to run. They're not cheaper because the algorithm will always take into account the highest expected value. The second outcome is that the quality of an ad finally plays a role in which ad runs. That doesn't happen today in display, but it happens all the time in CPC, and that's why I think a lot of people say that they laud CPC for its relevance and its efficacy. So finally, you can actually have 5 ads and understand which one is of highest quality, and that ad will be more likely to run because of its higher time on screen, higher quality score. The most beautiful outcome from this, and the most magical one, is that everybody in our entire ecosystem lines up to show people ads that they want to see and interact with, because otherwise nobody gets paid. If people don't like the ads that they're seeing, then they won't spend time with them, and then nobody gets paid in a sort of a timed ecosystem. So I think that that's probably the best outcome you could have from a consumer's perspective. So earlier this year, Parsec started selling our proprietary high-impact format on a cost per second basis, but I think it's bigger than just our single small product. I think that time-based advertising is an opportunity for digital branding to capture some of the same efficiencies that performance marketing enjoyed over the past decade. So when advertising is sold on a cost per second basis, all parties are aligned, so everybody wants to show the consumer an ad that they're interested in engaging in, and that's really the benefit of time-based advertising. So that's it for me.